Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Invested Fathers. I just finished a recording with Ed Sweeny with ThreeGen Ministries. Ed and I sat and talked about the quarters of life, launching our children, passivity of men, and we need to be fighting that, and just a lot of good fatherhood principles and topics and values. If you're going through a season right now where your kids or someone in your family, whether it be your son, daughter, maybe yourself, your wife, are going through something that's really hard, this episode will encourage you on where to turn. And spoiler alert, it's Jesus. But how do we get there, and what are the best methods to go to Him? Uh, Ed shares a very strong story of that in his own life, but was blessed and encouraged through this conversation. I would consider him a expert in the fatherhood teaching minister role. So having him on the show was a huge treat. He has such a heart for men and for dads and for sons as well. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. Do me a favor, if you have someone in mind that would be good to have on the show, connect with me. Let me know. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm trying to get more local people who want to have conversations about either business, fatherhood, health, marriage. These are the things that matter to me, and I want to create a space for the audience that also enjoys and wants to hear and grow in those topics. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram. Invested_Kenny Johnson is my screen name. I'll put that in the show notes. And enjoy the episode with Ed. Ed Sweeny, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Invested Fathers. This is a podcast that, for those that maybe are new, it's a crossover between fatherhood, business, a couple other things, but we're intentionally raising our kids, and we're investing into our families to get the best of return that we can. I think there's a trap out there of men need to work, and that's really your only thing, is to provide financially for your family. And as I've developed and as different things have come my way, it's much more than just providing financially. So
that's exactly right.
You and I met, Ed, a few months ago at a little coffee meetup with Miles, our friend. And why don't you give us a little bit about ThreeGen Ministries, maybe a little bit of real man stuff, and then we'll dive into some of your career journey.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I guess we'll go back to start with career journey.
We can. Yeah.
But ThreeGen is sort of what I'm doing now. I have been doing since we launched ThreeGen Ministries 8 years ago. It really is all the culmination of my career journey. But that's how life works. I mean, God, you can always look back and go, look how God was working and I didn't see it. Look how He was preparing me. Look how He was equipping me, building me, developing me into the person that I needed to be for this season. And I guess not everybody maybe can say that. There's men out there, and it breaks my heart, that are very discontent, that are just in a sort of a job situation only, and they are working because they're called and equipped to provide for their family, and they're doing what they can. But anyway, I have the privilege of working for ThreeGen Ministries, which is a discipleship ministry for families. So anything that has to do with family, I mean, with men, with women, with marriage, father, son, mother, daughter, all full family, any discipleship opportunity, whether it's a program or an event or even just a relationship where you walk with people in community through life, through seasons of family and all the things involved, and the complicated and beautiful nature of this institutional family idea that God designed from the very beginning. That's what ThreeGen does. And so you kind of can, it's not rocket science. You can look at the name and go, ThreeGen, 3 generations. Oh, I get it. It's about the story. It's about generations of people and families and interfacing with these ideas of multiple generations, for better or for worse. And so that's just a fact. No matter who you are, what age you are, men, women, demographic, doesn't matter who you are, you're living in the middle of 3 generations. You have an original family, a place that you came from. That family was where your journey started. It is a significant part of who you are, who you became, and who you are becoming. There will always be impact and influence from the generation before you, your parents. So we're always interfacing with our story, our journey, how we got where we are today from the previous generation. And then we're deciding, generation two, us, we're deciding all the time as we grow, especially and we develop, what do we want to keep? What do we want to leave behind? And so there's generational blessing that we're grateful for that was passed into us, whatever it may be. It might be a spiritual heritage. It might be a hard work ethic. It might just be that dad came from multiple divorces and he just chose to stay. And that was a blessing that he passed on to me. So there's all kind of ways to, everybody's story is different, but we're interfacing, we're deciding who we are, who we want to be. And then of course, the third generation part of ThreeGen Ministries is we are, Lord willing, if we're married and have children, we have another generation below us that we're sowing into, investing in, we're passing down. Hopefully, the goal is more generational blessing than generational brokenness.
Yes.
And the reality is all of us are passing down a little bit of both.
Yes.
But if we can, and it's hard to turn a ship on a dime.
Right.
And so it's this generational change that I think men and women should learn to discipline themselves to have a mindset for, to be focused on a long-term parenting strategy.
Yeah.
Because it is a fact that every strategic investment you make in your son or your daughter, into your children, is a significantly strategic investment in your grandchildren.
Yes.
That don't exist yet.
Yes.
Or they may exist. And I'm entering that season where my first grandchild, we have 3 children, but our first grandchild is months away. And dude, I'm over the moon. I cannot wait. My wife and I are going to keep the road. We just bought a new car because we know we need some low miles because we're getting ready to burn the house. So,
I love it.
Yeah, tires will be a big line item on the next 10, 20 years of our life. Lord willing, we can't wait. We're so excited.
I'm excited for you. No, it's great. And I love that idea of the ship because, we come from somewhere, and whether you like it or not, it's part of you. So understanding that, sort of being aware of that, maybe accepting it, but not just, okay, this is just what it is. How can I, take what I need to and, continue on and do those blessings and pass those on to our kids. I was just at the gym this morning and we were talking about conversations with our kids, and we were talking about respect and just sort of these principles. And it's one thing just to have it in your head, know it. But then when you're instructing somebody and informing their worldview, and it's a whole nother level of, seriousness.
Well, it is.
Right? So we were talking about that today, and it was just another reminder of the importance of being a dad and how we're shaping our kids' views on things, right?
Yeah, in some ways, we talked about work a few minutes ago and how one of the goals of work is to create that it is not just to do everything ourselves, but to have a vision for other people and to create opportunities for other people to pass down, to equip, to set them up, to delegate, really, ultimately. And the only way you can grow a business and to scale it is to do that. And so there's an interesting parallel. It's not exactly parallel to parenting, but there's an interesting idea that, I could do things by myself and my way, and I could sort of live inside my own head and my own heart, and it's just me and the world. But it's not. When you have kids, with every child you have, that's a whole new connection to a much larger world. I mean, even saying that makes me think of marriage. And I've always said in marriage, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 in a successful or relatively healthy marriage, 1 + 1 equals, I don't know what, but a much larger number than 2, because the compound, I guess, just when you bring 2 uniquely created, designed, gifted people and perspectives, talk about unique perspectives. You get men and women together, it's as unique as it comes, right? So that's another whole podcast. Yeah. How do you, as a man, how do I understand women? Really, I don't. I just get to have my whole world opened to a whole new perspective on life. And I get to see the world through the eyes of someone else when I'm able to do that. And when I do that, I realize, man, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. This is an almost infinite number of new things I've never seen. New colors, new beauty, new ideas, new perspectives, new glory in God's created world with people. And I've learned more about life from my wife than anybody in the world. Yeah. And then every time you add a child into the mix, it's another whole world perspective, Yes. Yeah. So many of us think in parenting, we grow up, or I did, especially even as a younger parent, thinking, Proverbs 22 says, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it.
Mhm.
And I always thought, as a believer, even as a young husband and a young father, I always thought, oh, that just God's command for me to train up a child in the way they should go. And he's given me that responsibility. I know the way they should go. So I know what I need to teach them. And in a sense, yes, that responsibility is true for all mothers and fathers, but it's not even about me. That verse is about my child. And I've learned over the years, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they're old, they won't depart from it. So if I train up a child in the way I think they should go, or I want them to go,
Mhm.
are they going to depart from it when they get old? Chances are decent that they probably will. Because what I plan, what I script, what I imagine, it's never even remotely as good as what God has planned.
Right.
And it's always different. It's always unique. And God always has so many surprises. So with each kid, it's about being a student of your child.
Yeah.
Every year, every child, it's like, well, God, who is this person that you made? What are they made? What are they like? What are they interested in? How can I learn about this unique personality, the gifts, the uniqueness of this person, this young man, this young woman, this boy, this girl? And every year build on that, train up a child in the way they should go so that you can launch them into what God has for them. And when they're old, they hopefully won't depart from it.
Yeah.
So
it's one of our main goals in
Yeah.
sense. And you're getting me excited because even you just listening to you talk, you're giving me and the audience the insights of how much time and energy you put into this ministry, ThreeGen Ministries, raising our kids. And it's something I'm passionate about and I'm excited about. It's a blessing to be a dad. And we're going to get into this probably maybe right now, even your experience toward this demographic. I know you say with the women and families as well, but if you could give us like just what's been the journey, the career journey, but also just, I think I'm very interested in the fatherhood lens in the journey of just kind of your own experience as a dad. Feel free to share, as a kid as well. I mean, I know we could talk for hours on this stuff because it's a deep topic, but just the journey, but like why dads and how has that sort of been something God has put in your heart?
No, it's a great question. And I think story is a huge deal. I mean, stories we have. Everybody has a story. Yeah, for better or for worse, we are living out, our journey out of the brokenness and the blessing of our story.
Yes.
And so career-wise, and even just a couple sentences back on my upbringing, I grew up in Greenville, grew up in a great family. My parents are still together. Praise the Lord. They're wonderful. They have become good friends. And by God's grace, they're healthy and they're getting ready to be great grandkids, which is fascinating. And we went to church growing up, but knowing of true, full understanding of a relationship with Jesus was not something that I was brought up in. And so I heard the gospel really clearly for the first time in high school through Young Life. Young Life was something, I went to jail, man, here in Greenville. And about 1986, which was my junior year of high school, I heard the gospel at a Young Life camp called Windy Gap, one of my favorite places on earth. And primarily, I have a lot of memories of Windy Gap over the years from a career path standpoint, but it's where I gave my life to Jesus, truly, for the first time. It's where I heard and understood the gospel for myself, took responsibility for my faith, and He literally brought me from darkness to light. Began a new trajectory as a believer, a follower of Christ in 1986. And so that was through Young Life. Fast forward, went through college, became a volunteer Young Life leader because I didn't know what else to do. Fell in love with teenagers and doing discipleship and gospel presentation to teenagers. In Young Life, I learned that really it's about relationships. And when you build bridges of friendship with people, lost people, broken people, healthy people, just people in general, we're made for relationships. We're created with that capacity not to live life in isolation or as Lone Rangers. And I fell in love with that idea, began to grow in my understanding of relationships, spent time with young high school guys, did Young Life as a leader through college. And then after college, I went on staff with Young Life and did that for 18 years. So I met my wife in Young Life in Knoxville, Tennessee. We had all three of our children in different towns in Tennessee, and we were on staff with Young Life again for our first 18 years of marriage. My wife was on staff for a couple of years. We did ministry together. And that was that was as foundational as anything to my career path because like I said, I learned so much about the Lord. I grew spiritually. I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about discipleship. And I learned a lot about the gospel. And as I watched people come to Jesus, grow in faith, some reject Jesus, and just as I grew, matured, and dealt with people on every level, of course, he was growing life, that I was growing spiritually. Still am. I'm 56. I'll be 57 this summer. And in a sense, I feel as young at heart as I've ever felt, and so excited about it. Now, my body, not so much, right? I can't run like I used to. I can't, but we're trying to stay as healthy as we can, extend our years to enjoy being multiple generations of our family. We want to see as much of that as we can. But so Renee and I raised 3 kids together. A lot of those first 18 years of that was in Young Life. And then in my late 30s, I think maybe I was almost 40, we left Young Life staff. We were in Nashville, Tennessee. We moved to Greenville. And this was 18 years ago. So we've been in Greenville now 18 years. We came in 2008. We left Tennessee, left Young Life staff because I was feeling at that point in time in my career more relationally connected from a ministry discipleship perspective to fathers of younger children than I was to teenagers. So I was managing a staff of younger Young Life staff who were also doing Young Life ministry. And I was still hanging out with teenagers, still playing basketball, still playing ultimate frisbee, still living in their world. There's parts of me that would still do that today. But interestingly, I was playing basketball, blew my knee out with a bunch of high school guys. I was almost 40. And that was a physical illustration of what was happening spiritually and emotionally for me. God was moving me away from the energy and life of the world of teenagers into what would become adult discipleship. So I was involved with a ministry called CLC based in Nashville, Tennessee, where I was. One of my mentors at the time was the guy who started this ministry. It was a discipleship ministry for men, and I loved it. And I was a participant, and I grew a lot from that. And so I was sort of commissioned by CLC to start CLC in South Carolina. It was a career path-wise. We moved here to Greenville, which was a homecoming for me because I grew up here, but I'd been gone 20 years.
Okay.
And kids were all in elementary school. I think they were 10, 7, and 5 when we moved back here. We moved to Greenville for the first time.
Okay.
Their first time.
Yes,
and I worked for CLC, started it for 1 year. It was 2008.
Tell me what CLC stands for.
Christian Leadership Concepts.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a men's discipleship ministry.
Got it.
And God was, again, exploding my heart with a passion for men and for families.
Got it.
And I was a young father and was, again, relationally connecting in that world more, demographically, that world more than anything.
Yeah.
So it was a great move for me. Ended up doing it for a year, and for economic reasons. Remember, 2008, housing bubble burst. Our house was on the market for 18 months in Nashville. We lived in a rental house here for a year.
Yeah.
A lot of our donors who were going to support this startup of this ministry with tears in their eyes called me over the course of that first year saying, "We're so sorry. This economy's just tanked our budget. We have to withdraw our funding." I ended up working on the side, which I have done multiple seasons of my life. I'm a builder. I love to build as a hobby, but I have the skill to do some things on the side when I need to. So side hustles, building decks, building fences, building playgrounds, remodeling kitchens and bathrooms, and doing ministry. And so after a year of that, we got plugged into a local church here in Greenville. I became friends with the pastor. I was hired on as the pastor to families, steady paycheck, new church community, a fit for my gifts and my passions. Pastor to families. Are you kidding? So that was I said earlier, I mentioned to you that all of our jobs, our career path, we're moving along this journey. And then you look back and see how God prepared you for the next thing, built you, developed you. We just grow on in faith, but he uses our career to do that.
Yeah.
So it was a new opportunity. We were there for almost 9 years. I played several roles as pastor at Grace Church here in Greenville. And then 8 years ago, left that job. And with a team of men, some of my close friends who are now on my board of directors, we launched ThreeGen Ministries.
Got it.
So that's the story. Sorry.
No, that's great, Ed. And I think you've definitely laid, your values, even you saying God has, opened doors, closed doors, led you, prepared you, used your gifts. When you talked about the blown out your knee, what I thought was, you got saved in high school, this Wendy gap.
Wendy gap.
So it
Did you got to go to Wendy?
I know. I never heard of that, so I'll have to look into that.
We'll talk about that later.
It was very impactful, and you couldn't help but, I think try to give that experience to others. Sometimes that, you stayed with a teen group.
Right.
And then as, your family's growing, you're getting older, knees were maybe not as strong as they used to be. God was saying, hey, now I want you to be doing this because this is the season you're in. And it's just it's kind of a cool picture just to see how God has adapted. You've adapted to, you've changed. We're not the same person we are, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And it's a beautiful picture of just the development and independence on God to keep walking through the doors that he opens.
That's right.
I feel like I'm in there right now in regards to just, I feel like I'm in a season of manna is what I tell people in regards to God is providing for me today. I want to be storing up manna for tomorrow. And there's principles to like, have
There are storehouse principles, but you don't want to stick 2 days of manna in the tent, which
but
I try to do all the time.
yeah,
But
it's a great, but I'm thankful though, because God is providing for us. And where maybe I would want something, there's always this mind of this guy who's, retired at 28, just doesn't need to work anymore because he did this big thing. And it's like, man, I'd be so much, better if I was there. But would it be,
yeah, I was getting ready to ask that question.
yeah, no.
Do you really want to retire at 20?
No, I mean, I guess that's what guys doing, but no, it's a great, it's a trial period in regards to, we're working hard. We don't know where sometimes this next flip is. I'm, a house flipper. So there's sometimes this
Right.
set, there's not a trail that's blazed right now, but I love it. And I love being able to have somewhat that vulnerability with my family too, of, the way we pray and just that dependence on God that I hope that everyone, sorry, not to make this about me, but just listening to your story, there was a sense of, you're just following where our leader is.
Well, amen. And I'm glad that you hear that in my story, because that is the woven thread that's true throughout. And, Second Corinthians 5:7, I believe it is, says, Paul says to his readers, we walk by faith, not by sight.
Mm.
And so this idea of sight, I think it's truly, he's talking about sight, seeing things, but I think it's a strong metaphor for just human understanding. Sight, if I can see something, it's manageable, it's controllable, it's predictable. I can see it, I know what I'm getting into, I can get my arms around it, I can understand it. As a man, that's really important to me. Understand, tackle, manage, predict, control, right? But Paul says we don't walk by sight. What's the opposite of sight? I mean, it's blindness. It's like, so we, if we could see something, the lights are on. If we can't, it's dark. So the metaphorical, I believe, truth in that walking by faith, not by sight, is just that darkness is typically where we're walking. And it's the only place that we're going to walk beyond our understanding. We're not going to be able to control, predict, manage, fully understand, go on with the life, our journey. And you can't see ahead, you can only see back. But by his grace, he causes us to have to walk by faith, which means that all the things that I would have scripted for my marriage, for my parenting, for my career, for my success, for my bank account, whatever it may, for my faith even, there nothing I would have scripted. It looks the way I would have scripted 30 years, 40 years ago. Everything in my life looks far better because I've had no choice as a believer in Jesus but to walk by faith and not by sight. And it makes me know that the next 20, 30, whatever he gives me, it's going to be more walking by faith. And it's going to get harder and it's going to get better.
Amen.
It's just, those are the stories he's telling.
That is a great gateway into this next question, because I feel, so we had a conversation a month or two ago, and I want to direct this question sort of to the dad that is in a season right now of trial. They're in walking by faith, not by sight. It's hard. Specifically maybe with their kids, raising their kids. It would be behavior problem, health problem, whatever. You fill the gap. But I know you've had some pretty big trials with Ford, your son.
That's right.
Give us a little bit of what that experience was like, as much as you would like to share. And, you're kind of on that, I think, the back end of it. It's no longer where you were in the store.
No question. God has done massive, miraculous work in that story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just give us, if you could, what happened, what did God teach you from it, and where are we today?
Yeah. I really do want to honor all the topics we want to cover. So I want to try to keep it buttoned up.
Yeah.
But that is it's a monster story
Yes.
of life.
Understood.
It's a significant time period, and it's the hardest, darkest season of life that our family has ever walked through. And I mean that, all five of us. So the medical illness journey happened to Ford, our youngest son, when he was 10 years old. He got sick when he was 11. He was in fifth grade. The boy was as healthy and robust and just smart as a whip in school and a great athlete. He was playing football for the East Side Dolphins. He was playing soccer on a CISA team, swimming competitively and swim team in our neighborhood in the summers. And both my boys are extreme adventurers. They love God's creation. They love his world, the way he made it. They love the outdoors. So we were hiking, fishing, camping, hunting as much as possible. Ford spent more time in the creek behind our house and on the pond than he did in the house.
Okay.
The yard was his world.
You didn't have to force him to play outside.
No. And that was an intentional decision that we made. And that's a value that we have as parents, which is it's a combative value. I mean, that value is intentionally against, over and above the culture that is a digital, technological,
comfortable,
screen-based, comfort.
Don't get sweaty, grit.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Right.
We're never going to do that. I hope that more men and more boys and women too. But this is, we're just talking about my son's here.
Yeah.
That was going to be very important.
Okay.
And it turned out to be. Long story short, Ford was a very robust fifth grader and got extremely sick with multiple infections, bacterial infections, viral infections, just multiple things. We wondered at the front end if there was Lyme disease attached to it because it had some mystery around it. There were a lot of co-infections. I've pulled more ticks off my boys just from all of our years deer hunting and outdoor stuff than I even care to count. There were some telltale signs. It got complicated with the medical community. Doctors disagree on complicated things. And when you enter the complex world of modern medicine,
Yes.
Praise God for modern medicine in the sense that most people make it through fairly unscathed, and you can rest on this idea that trained doctors have your best in mind and they know what they're talking about. And God, you created them for that. So praise God for that they represent the healing portion of God and can execute that among people. But there is a percentage of people, more and more, I think, as we get older and we meet people who have complicated, complex medical things in their family. So there's a reason that we say their doctors are practicing medicine because nobody's owning medicine. People are practicing it. There are some folks out there that think they own medicine. And we bumped into some of those during our dark years. That's another story. And God had us on a different journey.
Yes.
So there was something that happened in particular while he was extremely sick, very immunocompromised in this season, this 6-month season of sickness that fall. He was still playing sports, but he was overcompensating. He was not doing well. He was getting sicker. We were so thankful by Christmas that year, fifth grade, that he could come home, take a breath, rest for a few weeks. Surely this will heal. Well, it didn't. And there was an aggressive immunologist that vaccinated him early that spring, like in February, with a couple of vaccines that he didn't need. And that's another conversation for another time. I'm not going to give you my opinions unless you want them about vaccines. But in that, I will tell you that you never vaccinate a highly immunocompromised sick person. We didn't know that then. We know it now. And so that sent his neurological system into just chaos. Some of that toxicity entered broke the blood-brain barrier. Ford got extremely sick and just his health tanked. And by mid-spring, he was in the hospital in Greenville. We ended up being in the hospital for almost 6 months.
Okay.
About 2 or 3 months here in Greenville, massive workup. He walked into the hospital, hasn't walked since. This was when he was age 11.
Oh.
He ended up on a feeding tube pretty quickly. Functions began to shut down. And 3 months later, late spring of that year, he was life flighted to Cincinnati. We were on the plane with him. Left our 2 other children who were in high school and middle school back at home. So they were swept. When I share the story, I talk about how they were orphaned in a sense for a season of their life, and a very malleable, a very intentional season. So there's some scars for them, their experience. They weren't sick. They were healthy. Connor, our son, was in high school. McLean, our daughter, was in middle school. But they were staying with friends, staying with grandparents, hopping around different guest rooms for months. Because we flew to Cincinnati with our dying son. And we're there for almost 3 months. We had to jailbreak the hospital, which that's another story for another time. But the doctors weren't ready for us to leave. God had taught us enough in that 5-6 month period to where we knew it was time to leave. We had to get our son out of the care that was not going well for him into a different space. So, again, another conversation, but we borrowed a car from someone we barely knew in Ohio.
Wow.
It was God just was like, here's the car, here's clothes. Because we are a life flight. with him.
Yeah.
And we were there for 3 months. We had nothing. They wouldn't even let us take anything. Nope. We didn't have, we had to, my wife had to get a Bible. Couldn't take her, but it wasn't enough weight limit. So we were shucking stuff. We could only bring a couple changes of clothes. Anyway, long story short, we came home. Our son was on a feeding tube in a wheelchair, and that was 2015.
Okay.
So that would be 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of layers to his story, but I'll just fast forward through those. He spent his next 3 years almost bedridden in our home, slowly moving back into a homeschool scenario where he could learn and catch up. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, middle school years, at death's door, feeding tube, wheelchair, in and out of bed, lots of infections still, very sick, but slowly, very slowly starting to recover. God began to heal him, not in my time. I could promise you this. I looked at God. I still do 11 years later. And I say things to him that only he can handle. I wouldn't say stuff like this to other humans because I'd be too scared and embarrassed to say it. But God, who cares, who knows, who is God, he is sovereign, he is in control. And he just wants my heart, the honest heart. And I just reminded him over and over and over again, like, you're a heathen. Like, what are you doing? You can heal this child. You can snap your fingers. You can blink your eyes. You can go to sleep and heal him. Like, that's who you are. Don't you know? What is your problem? What's with this timeline thing? None of it makes sense. Well, back to walk by faith, not by sight. I tried to understand it. Couldn't understand it. Tried to control it. Tried to manage it. Tried to slip in myself. Like, hey, take me. A big boy. You picking on my 10-year-old?
Right.
Like, well, who are you?
Right.
Are you a bully? Are you really a loving father? And had that question for a long time. Well, of course, Ford, as he's growing up through his middle school years, he's getting smart. He's having all these, his parents are praying over him overnight. I'll never forget one night, 8th or 9th grade year, he just lashed out at God and at me. He said, why are you still praying? God he either is not who you see. He's either too weak to heal me because you've been praying for 4 or 5 years for healing. He's either too weak to heal me, and I'm not interested in a weak God. Or he is who you say he is. He's that strong, that powerful, and he just hates me. Maybe he just hates me. And that was Ford's relationship with God. Of course, we in our home felt the ramifications of that. And it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, good call. I get it. I feel it.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with him too.
Right.
And we're going to make it through this.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
And we are still making it through that. And so high school years were brutal.
Yes.
But he was slowly healing, slowly gaining independence. Started going to Eastside High School. He's the only kid in a wheelchair. We had whole structured time where he would slip away for a feeding. I'm a feeding tube in high school. Are you kidding me? This is not the plan, Lord. And if it is, it's a real dumb plan. It's a real bad idea. Like, for real.
Yeah.
And constantly reminding God of who he is, constantly praying, constantly believing, constantly choosing to walk by faith and not by sight. He graduated high school. At his senior year, he connected with a swallow therapist who ended up sort of being a friend. We knew her through years ago from church relationships. She was willing to come to our house. It was not in the typical sterile therapy setting. She began to work with Ford. Ford connected with her. Ford started to receive signals in his body that he was going to regain swallowing, and he went for it, and he did. So by the time he went to college 4 years ago at Clemson, he was swallowing, eating normal food, starting to gain weight, starting to grow, starting to mature. Of course, he's mature decades of maturity beyond most adults because of what he's experienced,
Exactly.
right? But he's also a college kid.
Yes.
And missed out on a lot of life.
Right.
Anyway, went to Clemson, had 4 fantastic years, but the most important healing and the most important thing is that God drew him back to himself. And so Ford has an incredible relationship with Jesus. Ford's a great musician. Ford has been on the FCA worship team for the last 4 years at Clemson. He has incredible relationships, great friendships. He works out every day in the gym, so he's an absolute monster. I would not go anywhere near him in an alleyway. He's a tough dude. He's the toughest guy I know. The irony is not lost on me that Ford Tough is a slogan that's been around for decades. So we have our own Ford Tough in the house. He graduated Clemson a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I could tell you story after story after story, but we have seen redemption and healing. He's still in a wheelchair, but he has strong, exciting vision and plans for his adult life as an independent young man.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah, you bet.
I know that was probably hard to relive it, just saying it. I've recently, within the last maybe 2 weeks, talked with a dad who has sons with big eczema problems, and then another one with like a learning disability, sort of on the spectrum. And these are, of course, way different than your story. But I just sharing journeys and thankfully, sort of the back end. And they don't always, end the way they're ending here, or just continuing on. But your faith, walking by faith, not by sight, reminding God who He is. I just feel like these are very helpful, practical, raw, tip experiences that I appreciate you sharing.
You're welcome.
And maybe we'll just keep going with sort of, again, you've laid the groundwork of where you've been a little bit. One question I'd like to ask is, where are dads missing it right now, and where are they doing it right? Sort of that idea of, just in your perspective. Everyone has a different perspective for their place, time, age, but just in what you're seeing. And of course, you can put the lens of your own life in this. But where are dads missing it right now, and where are some things that we're getting it right?
Yeah, God, there's so many answers to both of those questions. The first thing that comes to mind is where dads missing it right now. Dads are letting the world raise their kids. That's where they're missing. And that may be through video games, and maybe through TV, and maybe through just the culture in general.
Passivity, kind of.
Absolutely.
It's like
passivity. I mean, the opposite of passivity is intentionality, right? It's active and passive. And so to be an active, intentional, to use your word, invested father is the opposite of being a passive, disengaged, checked out father. And here's the thing about masculinity is on our worst days, which is a lot of our days, right? But like, it's standard fare for men to only want to operate in our spheres of confidence. And so we'll gravitate and move intentionally and hard, actively into anything that we can control, understand, manage, or manipulate. That's just that's where we're comfortable.
Right.
But God wants us to operate outside of that, outside of comfort, outside of predictability, management, control. So He's constantly leading us into those places where they're dark, where we have to walk by faith. We don't want to go there. So where we're missing it is we're not stepping into the places that are uncomfortable. And sadly, for most of us, marriage and parenting, we're just not naturally good at that. We're naturally good at being dudes. We're naturally good at the things that we like to do, that we feel comfortable doing and confident in doing. And there's nothing wrong with those things. I mean, everybody's wired uniquely, right? And our unique wiring is part of how we reflect the image of God. Genesis 1:26-27. We were made to reflect His image and His masculine image. And so we should operate in the sphere of our passions, our heart, how He wired us uniquely. Like, our whole life is trying to figure that out. But the only way we're going to get sharpened in those areas and be the tools that God wants us to be as men is to be out of our comfort zones. It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. That's why marriage is hard, because it's supposed to be good. It's not going to be good if it's not hard, because I'll live the rest of my life thinking that I just have another dude friend who just happens to be female in my world. No, the world that opened up when I got married to Renee is a completely different world. It's a world I never would have seen without her being a woman, right? So we could talk about gender, biblical gender. We could talk about how the enemy is attacking gender, biblical marriage, institutional family. This is the stuff that's most important to God.
Yes.
He made image reflections of Himself to bring Him delight, joy, bring Him honor and praise. That's why we're here. And the way we do that is to reflect His image in relationship with one another, because He is a God of relationship. He lives in community. The Trinity existed in community and relationship before the world was even created. So I forget what.
Missing it and doing it right. No, so
dads are missing it by letting the world
say, okay, this is how let's do it.
We do that by not stepping into the hard places with our children, letting our wife do the discipline, letting our wife make the rules around the house.
Got it.
Now, leadership in the home absolutely includes delegating a lot of that leadership to your wife.
Yes.
She's way more gifted than you are.
Yes.
to lead the home. She's way more gifted in some parenting strategies than you are. You should listen to every word that comes out of her mouth.
Right.
And then she'll say some things that are wise and that are right that they might oppose or sound like they oppose your thinking, or they might be a little bit offensive to you. And so our nature is to retreat, to be offended, to get our feelings hurt, to pout, to whatever it is. And men fall into two ditches. We're either super passive and we check out, or we're super domineering and we overbear. Those are two ditches, and men tend towards one or the other. I tend toward the passivity, dial out, check out, let her do her thing, I'll do my thing. Dude, that's the worst thing you could possibly do for your marriage and for your kids. We should step into the places that we're weak. We should see the beauty of how God complemented us with a woman who knows a whole lot more about life and relationships and children than I do. And then it's my role to lead the conversation strategically about what are we doing as parents to launch these children someday. And I think, so this is where dads are getting it right.
Tell me.
No, I'll say two things. The simplest answer is dads are getting it right by sticking around, by just staying. Just a quick note on divorce for any dad that's listening to this, that's like having these ideas about, did I make a mistake? Did I marry the wrong woman? Was marriage not for me? What's the problem? Why is my marriage so broken? Is it her? The answer is no, it's not her. And it may not even be you. It's the enemy. He wants men to believe that leaving and walking away is going to be a good solution. I cannot for the life of me, after 32 years of marriage, understand that thinking at all. That's the worst thinking I've ever heard. You mean to tell me that you're going to go 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years and struggle in marriage? You're going to do all that work to stick around for that amount of time and walk away? And what? Start over? No, it's the worst idea. You're so close to the next step. You're so close to surrendering your idea of what this was supposed to be about and letting God use this woman and this marriage and this family to open your eyes to this whole new world. Go to the next step. Stay. So guys are doing it right if they're staying. And there's a myth out there that 50% of marriages end in divorce. And that might have been a statistic in the 80s or the 90s. The most recent statistics I've read are about a third. Okay. So maybe there's a trend towards men sticking around. I don't know. But that third who's leaving, who's experiencing divorce, they're making the biggest mistake. We're talking about men stick around. Yeah. Just stay. But that's really only half the battle, because you can stay and be passive, and checked out, and you can actually have a worse marriage sometimes just by staying and being dialed out and living two separate lives as roommates. And so where dads who are staying can really get it right.
There's hope.
There's more than hope.
I mean, there's as soon as I see some dad, I don't know if I should say as soon as, when I go to the grocery store, I see a dad and there's a kid there, or I can just tell somehow I know he's a dad.
Yeah.
I just try to you're doing it. I don't know how good you're doing it, but you're doing it. Hang in there.
A dad at a grocery store.
It's a race, it's a marathon.
It's awesome. Yeah, just hang in there. And I have a thought on that. Remind me to go back to life in quarter in just a minute on that note. But what I want to say to button this up is that the dads that are getting it right by staying and sticking around, they can get it even righter, if that's a way to say it, more right, by just attacking back against the world that's going. So the world is going to raise our kids to the degree that we push them into the world or allow them to be in the world. So there's a big difference, I believe, between sheltering and shepherding. We can shelter our children for a long time. And there are times that sheltering them, bringing the biblical images, is covering them with their wings, protecting them. There are times and seasons where that's appropriate. But we've got to be intentional to not always shelter our children from the world, because they're going to figure this out at some point. They're going to live in the world that the enemy is working actively in. So over time, strategically, we want them to live in the world and learn how to manage that, how to engage the world, how to win with God's help against the enemy that is the king, the ruler of this world. And so, again, we can't let the world raise our kids. We've got to be intentional to do that. We have to have conversations with our lives looking forward. We have to strategically think about next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what do we want life to be like? Here's a tip. You married a woman forever. You ain't got kids forever. And this will get back to our quarters idea here in a minute. but you got 18 years with kids. And if you have multiple kids, you probably have 25 years with kids in your home. And the goal is to launch these children into the world. Like the ultimate goal is I want to be adult friends with my children. If I want to be adult friends with my children, do you think being their friend for the 18 years that they're in my home is the path to that? It's not. They don't need me to be their friend as their parent. They need me to be their father. They need me to be a parent. Are we going to have joy and adventure and laughter and delight together? Of course we are.
Right.
We're going to have friendship moments.
Yeah.
But if I am friend dad and I say yes when I know I need to say no, or I'm weak in the consequences that need to come down,
Yes.
or I'm not intentional to speak into something that I see
Yes.
because I fear my wife's opinion, or I fear embittering my child or pushing them away. My wife used to always say, it's so amazing, especially with our daughter, but with all of our kids, children, especially in their teen years, they're always doing this. They're always saying, come close, stay away, come close, at the same time. And it's like, which one is it? Well, the answer is yes, it's both.
Yeah.
They're in a season where they're confused. They're listening to the world.
Yeah.
They're listening to all this stuff that's not true. They're so moved, for better or for worse, by the community around them. And they're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can give kids appropriate boundaries from us and independence and push them into the world as they get older. But man, I'm always going to try and be intentional. Dive in, listen, don't talk. You can talk some, and we're supposed to speak.
Yes.
But man, if you ask leading questions, especially your teenage children, middle school children, and you just take a deep breath and listen, you will be the student of your child in a way. You will learn so much about your kid's heart, who they are.
Thank you. No, that's
Just
a great
listen.
reminder. And I'm coming off of a recent soapbox of, I was talking to my son last night about something, and I don't even remember what it was, but at the very end, he goes, Dad, thanks for that talk. Now, your top 3 favorite bugs from this book. Could we go through it? I was like, okay, I'm moving a little along there. Time wise, I want to make sure we just check here. Okay. So, okay. Probably time for 2 more questions, topics. And I want to be able to share the real man stuff. I want to put that because I feel like what we're doing here is we're kind of given just scratching the surface of like these principles, these encouragements, these challenges. But I want to be able to direct more, with the ministries that you're doing. If people want to, just embrace that and just dive into that. But tell me about the quarters that you mentioned.
Yeah, the quarters, we kind of already talked about it.
Oh,
Okay.
Just
It's just real quick. It's this idea of life in quarters.
Yeah.
And it's presupposed on a really lofty idea. We'll get 100 years.
Got it.
We're probably not going to get 100 years. There's a handful that get it. I always read the New Testament. I'm like, man, these dudes got 900. What the heck? Where's my 9, man?
Right.
9 lives.
Right.
But I actually probably don't want that anymore. But let's just presuppose we get 80 to 100.
Okay.
If we're living in a healthy way, if we're combating stress, we're eating well, we're exercising with this longevity, health, God's body by design, we're going to get some years unless something happens, and it may. But living according to this plan of quarters, you spend the first quarter, roughly 25 years of your life as a dependent. You are somebody's making decisions for you. Somebody's footing your bill. In our 20s, early 20s, late teens, early 20s, the best of us start supplementing our parents' income by providing for ourselves, working, making a living, providing, paying for college, whatever it may be. But we're still typically, this is a typical story. It's not every story. Some people get married at 18. I wish I had. I wish I was, 6 years younger right now. About to have a grandchild. Not the story God had for me, but you spend roughly 20, 25 years, your first quarter, depending on someone else. Then you get married and you have children. Again, it's a generalization. But as a rule, your second quarter, 40 to 50, so let's just say 25 years, dependent. Get married, have kids, start having children, start raising kids. You have kids in your home for 25 years. You turn 50, you're at midlife, second quarter's over. Enter your third quarter. So second quarter, you became totally independent and you kept adding responsibility to your life. You're starting a business. You own a house. You got to fix things. You got to pay for cars, you got to pay for insurance, you got to raise children, everything's more expensive. So you have this massive season of growing independence and you start providing for others. Your energy is high because you're still young, but your influence, you're literally just, sometimes on your best day, you're just faking it till you make it. just trying to stay awake, right? Just trying to get the kids where they're supposed to be so you can take a deep breath and talk to your wife for 30 seconds. But then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
And you're 50, you're in midlife. Your kids are in college, they're launched, they're out of the house, and the parenting years are over. Well, who are you stuck with? You're stuck with your best friend, hopefully, the one that you married 25, 30 years ago, and you get a whole nother quarter. Low energy, broken body, high influence, high impact. All this time now to invest in relationships, in ministry, in others, in the generation below you. All this time. I can finally do yard work. I can finally not have to fix something every day. I can finally sit down and have meals with my wife, have a longer conversation. And then for those few of us that managed to stay healthy and managed to receive this incredibly rare blessing from God, is maybe you get a fourth quarter. Again, less impact as far as energy and physical condition, but way more influence from an influence standpoint, a generational influence. That's the idea. And it's, and I think the reason I say that to fathers is you're going to make it. This parenting season is a quarter of your life. It feels, the days are long, but the years are short. And it feels like you're never going to get to tomorrow, never going to get to next week. Your kid's never going to get out of diapers. Your kid's never going to he's never going to work. He's never going to stop whining. Dude, it is just like you said, just keep grinding. Hang in there because you're going to point and it's going to be dope. And you're going to have men in your home. So this is to fathers of sons. You're going to have teenage men in your home, and there's going to be a day not far away where you're going to be like, there ain't room for 3 men in this house. There ain't room for 4 men in this house. These men, they got to go. I love you.
Yeah.
But it's time.
Yeah.
And you know what they're thinking? Dad, I love you, but it's time. And it's beautiful the way God wires that up because they get cars, they get jobs, they get girlfriends, they have social lives, they have responsibilities. And so they're gone. And then truly they go to college or they get a job and they move out and you're in the third quarter and they are gone.
Yeah.
And hopefully they become your friends.
Yeah.
So that's the stage we're going.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pull my
real man.
Yeah, just we're wrapping up here. So now over here. Got something cool in the mail the other day. So it leads this group called Real Man. I say real.
Real Man
founder.
Yeah, Real Man is a part of ThreeGen Ministries.
Yep.
It's a father-son. It's a long-term father-son discipleship program. And so groups of men, fathers who have sons, just decide together we're going to start a Real Man group. And we're going to commit to the long-term strategic discipleship in community and in relationship of our boys while we have them under our roofs. Mm-hmm. So the idea will start with your boys age 5, 6 years old, and you'll have 10, 12, even 14 years with them in the house until they graduate at age 18 or 19 from high school. So it's a long time to commit to something.
Yeah.
It's not a heavy commitment on meetings. We're not trying to do a weekly meeting. We're trying to create a lifestyle of teaching principles, biblical teaching principles and ideas where, again, fathers in community can raise boys together and have milestones and landmarks over the years where we celebrate their growth, their discipleship, and other men pour into your sons. Yeah. So that's really the secret sauce about Real Man is this idea that every man who has sons, like God's given us all to raise our sons. We're the primary spiritual directors. We're the primary caretakers, providers. We can, and we've been gifted with all that we need to teach our sons to thrive and succeed as adult men. But if I had one person, if I just had Kenny into the mix and I introduce you to my sons as a father figure, someone who's different, wired uniquely from me, with a unique perspective, of different gifts from God, but you are another man who I vouch for, who I believe in, and shoulder to shoulder, we've got a lot to do together, a lot of adventures ahead. We're just going to meet 4, 5, 6 times a year. We're going to do some great things together, and we're going to talk about what it means to walk through life and follow Jesus. Work hard, become men. I double my masculine impact when I introduce you. I do that with 3 men, 5 men, 6 men. It's this exponential, compounding masculine impact and influence over time. And it started almost 18 years ago.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, anyone interested and is in the South Carolina area, I know there's different chapters or different, our church at Mitchell Road, one of the guys, Miles, who's on the show, stepped up. So anyway, just wanted to plug that in as something that is kind of a cool thing I discovered.
Thank you.
It
I
goes
love it.
so much into purpose of the show. So community dads getting together. And then you even had something, I don't know if this is a once a year thing or multiple times, that you had like a dad meetup thing, a retreat.
Yeah. So we call that the Pursuit Men's Discipleship Weekend. Pursuit based on the idea that men are uniquely created to pursue, to go after everything.
Yeah.
We're part of the way we reflect God's masculine image. So Pursuit Men's Discipleship Weekend happens every spring.
Okay.
And we do it annually, and it's 300 plus adult men. By adult men, I mean 18 to 85.
Okay.
And everybody in between. So we have all different decades, and we actually have 3 generations in the same family. A few examples of that have come on that retreat, but there's a lot of fathers and sons. Again, sometimes there's even grandsons. But that's an annual retreat. We do it typically at one of the Young Life camps. So that might be your way to get to Windy Gap. This year, it's the first weekend of March, coming up in 2027.
Okay.
And it's at a Young Life camp called Carolina Point.
Okay.
See, it's an hour away from here, and it is a fantastic event of getting away from just laying everything down, getting away from the busyness, the chaos, the routine of our world, going up the mountain literally. And it is a resort camp. So if you're thinking screen doors and, tin plates full of beans, and it's not that. It's a really nice camp for all you guys that need at least a decent mattress. It's fine. You can handle it for a weekend.
Very good.
Bring Kleenex if you're going to cry about it the whole time. But men come, and men can't get enough of it because we're made for relationship. We're made for adventure and stepping away to be with the Lord. And that's what we focus on. Relationships, worship, adventure, great Bible teaching, and men just being encouraged to celebrate their masculine nature.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Ed, we're going to close out. I wanted to just do final thought. I might not have asked you something that you wanted to say. I don't know if you had anything in your mind that was like, I kind of want to say this before I leave here. And there's so much here that I know we could go on, but I'll just kind of leave it to you for a final thought. Anything that was a final advice point to men, and you said so much already, but I just feel like the theme has been, we're launching our kids. Potentially we're in that second quarter season of trial, whether it be another challenge or encouragement. And then let the audience know if they wanted to connect with you, what would be the easiest, simplest, maybe fastest, best way to do that, whether it be email or website or whatever.
So good, man. Thank you. I don't have anything specific that I feel like we missed or I wanted to say. I didn't know what we would say.
Yeah, that's great.
I really agree. But it's a privilege to get to talk to you, to hear your heart for family and for discipling other men. It's a privilege to talk about something that I'm passionate about, and only by God's grace. I mean, He has put this in me, but He's put it in every man. It's just tapping into it. It's just listening to the right voice. Quit listening to the voices of the world, and quit listening to the voice of the enemy that makes us feel ashamed or we don't have what it takes. Like, that is a voice of the enemy beating men down. You do have what it takes. You do have a distinct and unique calling to step up, reflect the image of God, be a husband, be a father, represent God in the unique way. It's not supposed to look like it. It's supposed to look like you. So get into a community of men. We can help with that in ThreeGen. That's what we do. We put communities of men together who will go through seasons. We have a 40-week study, which I could tell you about next time, where men meet together for 40 weeks and they go deep in it's called Next Level. Because the next level of their walk with Jesus, what it means to have faith and walk in faith as men. We talk about everything under the sun, 40 weeks, right? So, but it takes us to the next level in deep relationships as well. And every man is made for that. The world wants us to isolate and separate out of fear, out of control, out of comfort. The last idea I would say, if anything, let the story of the Bible be the place that we find our own story. So our story, our unique individual story, is just a small version of the big story that God is telling in the scripture. From cover to cover, this is a story about a family that began with the creation of a man and a woman. God created an habitable earth. He formed the earth, and He filled the earth with life, all to create an environment for the crown of His creation, which is the reflection of His image, male and female, to flourish in. He made a man, woman, He made a marriage, and He gave them what's called the creation mandate. And that's to go be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. All that you see Everything here that's has been made for you and for your benefit. Have dominion over this place. Reflect my image, work this land, multiply, fill the earth. Keep making images of me because that's what this world is for. So zoom out when you're stressed out, when you're busy, when you're exhausted. Just take a second every day and zoom out and say, I'm just a part of a grand story. And it's a love story about a father that loves us deeply and has gone to the ends of the earth by even giving his own son in my place to just create space for me to have a relationship with him and to walk in faith. He's the provider. He's the source. He's the purpose of the whole story. All these little crazy diaper kids in my house that are throwing food everywhere and arguing about who gets the front seat. Like, that's all just part of the plan in their stories for them to see who God really is, who they really are without him. And ultimately for us as fathers to point those people in our homes, in our families, to Jesus, who the whole thing's about. So zoom out to the meta narrative and just see the whole thing is about God. And the Bible is the only story that tells that. And it's the only place we're going to get direction and encouragement that we need to be the invested fathers that he's called us to be.
Well said. And if our audience wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way to do that?
So 3 is the number 3, GEN. If you type in ThreeGen Ministry or just 3Gen in Google, it's probably going to come up. We're based in here in Greenville, South Carolina. You can email me at ed, just ED, at 3, the number 3, GEN Ministries. So whatever that is, 3GenMinistries.org.
Okay.
ORG. And that's, on our website, there's also a place like tell me more. I want to connect. You can tell us what you're interested in and we'll respond.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ed, thanks for joining the Invested Fathers. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I did. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kenny. What a privilege to be here, man.
Thanks,
awesome.
Man. Take care.